Welcome back, guys, to this week's episode of A&K Roundtable Sports. I am Aaron Fauché here with Kevin Collins. September 11th, 2013. Just want to start the show off by saying thank you to those that fight for our freedoms, the troops, all those that died in the horrific terrorist attacks 12 years ago. We wouldn't be able to do this show, in a lot of things that we take for granted without those that fight for our freedom and our troops and everybody that puts their lives on the line every day, firefighters, police officers. So thank you. Thanks for tuning in this week. Got some pretty good stuff. We're going to start off. Pretty big deal here in America. USA qualifies for the World Cup last night. Kevin, give us a quick run through of that. What did you think?
A growing phenomenon, hopefully, as a soccer fanatic, is the U.S. soccer. Everyone loves the World Cup. Even the non-soccer fan will watch the World Cup. Hopefully, that usually is what gets people into soccer. It's like, oh, the World Cup's awesome, I like soccer. That's how it happened for me, that and along with FIFA. And last night, U.S. soccer... What? The FIFA is...
No, I totally agree.
So, U.S. soccer last night, big win over Mexico. They had to win, and then Honduras had to either win or draw with Panama to secure a top 3 finish for USA, and they're still at the top of the hex. So big win. You had Eddie Johnson early in the game with a header, got saved by the keeper, and then later in the game, big goal. We have that for you. And then later on, you see Landon Donovan on a good finish on the ball into the box. That was big, and so USA 2-0 over Mexico, and that's huge for. Coming off of September 11th. September 11th today. Last night was the 10th. That U.S. It's good for USA. I think. USA. People don't necessarily say soccer and freedoms of the United States go hand in hand and such, but I think that. It's a good feeling that, hey, USA, the nation did it, and then a day like today where we remember everyone that goes out and works for our freedoms, fights for our freedoms, does everything, and then, I'm representing my shirt today.
Great shirt.
On behalf of America, and, like you say, we take our liberties for granted, and that people are out there fighting for us. It's big, but U.S. soccer, I'm excited. Brazil, here we come, baby. Hopefully we'll make a good run in the World Cup. So, moving away from football and going back into football, American football, we're gonna Aaron, break us down this past weekend. Who is your most impressive team this past weekend?
My most impressive team, of course, we're talking NFL here. My most impressive team was the San Francisco 49ers. A huge win over the Green Bay Packers, and that was a great football game. If you didn't get a chance to watch it, I know the blackout rules for the NFL are pretty stupid here. So here, us in Arizona didn't get to watch it. Buy that Sunday ticket package and enjoy what you can. But Colin Kaepernick, first time he's thrown for over 400 yards.
Over 300 yards for that matter,
led a fourth quarter drive. They were down with about 9 minutes to play, and Kaepernick led them right down the field. And Anquan Boldin was huge, which is great for the 49ers who had a lot of receiving.
But you don't like the water?
Who had to go with the water. The 49ers had a lot of receiving questions. Michael Crabtree was hurt. People didn't know what they were going to get from Bolden, from Vernon Davis. Both those guys had huge games. Aaron Rodgers played good, as we've come to expect. And so the 49ers, there were both a lot of people hyping them up in the preseason, a lot of people saying they had questions, not knowing where the offense was going to come from. Kaepernick was unbelievable, and what I liked most was their ability to come back when they were trailing, and also how Harbaugh kind of protected Kaepernick by not running him as much. So if he can do that passing, I know Green Bay is not the greatest defense, but I was impressed by Kaepernick standing in the pocket. And the 49ers, big game coming up this weekend. What about you? Who was your most impressive team?
I agree with the 49ers. They were up there for me, like you said about Kaepernick, and the pass rush was decent from Green Bay, but he did such a good job of scrambling, finding players to throw to, keeping the play alive, and that's what a great quarterback is. And I think that's why the Niners are going to be, a front runner for the Super Bowl this season. But outside of the Niners, and then there's a couple other teams that were pretty impressive. But I'm going to go with a little flash from the past, I guess you can say, now that he's in the NFL. Chip Kelly and the Philadelphia Eagles. I was wowed from the first play and on. Like I had so much fun watching that game because I felt like I was watching Oregon, and it looked like Oregon. And you had a guy, Michael Vick, who loves running that offense, and you can tell because he has so many options. Once a hole closed off, something else, another option, and that's as a quarterback. I mean, if you have all these options and you're as versatile as Vick is, you're going to be successful. And when you got a guy like LaShawn McCoy, who I think is going to be a great fantasy back, if you have him, I mean, if you have sell high or just don't sell at all because he's just that good, he's going to get a lot of points. And if you saw some of the moves, shake and bake, baby, like he knows what he's sick. Like I really like him. Yeah. And then you got Deshaun Jackson and Selleck, guys that he's throwing to, and they're good options. They're going to catch the ball. I love the Eagles, and I loved how fast they play. And Chip Kelly, after the game, said that wasn't even the intensity that we want to be at. We want to be faster, quicker, like in between plays, everything just faster. And then, you don't see that often because you saw how tired the Redskins were. And I really love the Eagles, and I think the Eagles are another team that's going to be fun to watch this season. Yeah,
and you mentioned Vic, fantasy. Vic was awesome too, and that offense fits him perfectly because he's not as accurate throwing the ball deep as some of the other top quarterbacks in the league, but that offense doesn't really ask him to throw the ball deep as much as it normally would. And Deshaun Jackson, somebody who's had on the field kind of character issues in the past, said how much he loved this offense. He looked great. I mean, he's still chipping with D'Angelo Hall, but good stuff from the Eagles. What about your least impressive team?
Least impressive team, I'm a big Giants fan, and I was so disappointed in the Giants' performance, especially in keeping control of the ball. So many turnovers, 6 turnovers, and Manning threw for 2 picks. Granted, I mean I love Eli Manning.
Three picks, I think.
Was it 3?
One of them was kind of a tip ball, but
So and then he had touchdowns, and then I think it was 3 touchdowns, 4 touchdowns, 450 yards. And so Eli was good, distributed the ball well. Cruz, Rubin, and Nix all had, I think, over 100 yards receiving, and then Brandon Myers, who had 7 receptions for 66 yards and a touchdown. They did well, but the backfield for the New York Giants was miserable. Like I couldn't believe Wilson in the backfield was, fumble, and then they had another guy at the other back in the backfield.
Wilson's been getting a lot of love too.
Yeah, exactly. So they went out and they said, enough. We signed Brandon Jacobs back. They got him back, and that just showed that it was within 24 hours of the game that they're desperate for it. Like, you cannot have. You saw the frustration of Eli Manning. We've talked about before the show how Eli Manning is one of the guys that wears his emotions on his sleeve constantly. You can tell when he's upset, and he was pissed. You saw arms in the air consistently throughout that game, and so I'm going to go with the Giants. Brandon Jacobs, he's been a guy for the Giants in the past. He's going to have to be a guy because Eli Manning and the ball in the air is going to be good, but if they got to have a run game, so they got to protect that passing game.
I agree.
So I'm going to go with the Giants. What do you have for least impressive team?
A couple ones. First off, I got to touch on the Bucks. You ruined my weekend betting wise. And that was Levante David. You saw that late hit penalty that put the Jets in field goal position, allowed the Jets to steal that game. Boneheaded play, and we saw a lot of that this weekend. So just to touch on that, the Dominican Sue with a personal foul penalty that negated a touchdown. Clay Matthews with a late hit penalty out in San Francisco that the refs eventually messed up and gave San Francisco a touchdown. But a lot of unimpressive defensive plays, not smart. Those will lose your ball games, as it did with the Bucks. But my least impressive team was the Pittsburgh Steelers. They lost 16-9 at home against the Tennessee Titans. They were given a gift safety on the first play of the game. Their offensive line was a mess. Their all-pro offensive lineman, Pouncey, got hurt, torn ACL. He's out for the year. They don't have a lot of depth on the offensive line.
Yeah, Le'Veon Bell is hurt also, so a big back.
And their starter, Isaac Redmond, fumbled twice.
Exactly.
Todd Haley and Ben Roethlisberger don't seem to be getting along. Roethlisberger holds on to the ball long as it is, but with Haley, he kind of hangs his quarterbacks out to dry. I didn't like Haley in Kansas City. I thought he kind of mismanaged Jamal Charles, so I thought that the Steelers, and it still do, I guess. The AFC is not very deep, and Tomlin is a great coach. Mm-hmm. But I was really disappointed in the Steelers in the first week because I saw them as a team that could potentially get that last wild card spot and to lose a game like Tennessee. That's not how you want to start your season, especially when you're playing in the AFC North against Cincinnati and Baltimore 4 times a year. And so, bad start for the Steelers.
Don't count out the Steelers.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
don't
Ben
make too much
Roethlisberger,
noise.
he's been there. He's been through the tough times. He's been through the good times. I think Steelers will go okay. Like you said in a previous podcast, Steelers are your favorite for wild card.
Yeah.
So, I mean, don't count the Steelers. I mean,
just don't make too much of the first week of the
exactly.
NFL season.
It's just the first week. I mean, the Giants are going to be fine, I think. It's just 6 turnovers in a game was way too much, and against a team like the Cowboys, who there's a little bit of a rivalry there. So,
and they lost 36-31 in a game where they turned the ball over 6 times.
exactly.
Too. So the Cowboys were very impressive. Yeah, exactly. Moving on, last week we did some picks for you. We went 2-5 on the weekend, 2-3 on the weekend. If that Buccaneers penalty doesn't happen, we probably go 3-5, which is a winning week. We got 4 picks for you this week. I'm going to start with Baltimore -7 against Cleveland. I look for the defending champs to rebound. They've had extra time to prepare for this. Cleveland got hammered at home by Miami, who's a mediocre team. The turnaround between Denver and Cleveland for a defense that's kind of in transition for Baltimore. I think being at home against a worse offense, obviously you're not going to. Anybody coming off Peyton Manning is going to be an easier matchup. I look for Baltimore to cover the 7 points. I look for the Lions to go on the road to beat the Cardinals. Probably an unpopular pick in Arizona, but the Lions are a momentum team and they're healthy right now. Stafford and Bush and Calvin Johnson, I mean, those are 3 of the best playmakers at their position probably in the league. And the Lions are a team that when they're hot, they're going to win some games, and when they're not, you can't back them. But right now they're looking good. The Cardinals are still kind of searching for an identity.
But there's hope in Arizona.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, when you saw Carson Palmer consistently get the ball to Larry Fitzgerald, I mean, Fitzgerald, size of relief.
Yeah.
Because we've had some of the worst quarterbacks, Skelton, Max Hall,
Exactly.
called, all these guys come in. Yeah, and it was brutal. So that's a sigh of relief and hopefully optimism for the Arizona Cardinals and their fans, because if you got a guy that's going to pass the ball like Palmer did this past weekend and in Oakland, it could be up. But I mean, it's tough. The Lions, like you said, momentum team. Reggie Bush coming off a huge week. Stafford threw the ball well, and I think expect a good game.
Yeah, and it's this is the Lions, so they're not going to go out and beat them by 30 points.
Yeah.
So I mean, I expect a nerve-wracking game, but I feel like the Lions are this year a bust for the Lions, I think, in terms of their coaching staff and their team. So, and then the last one is San Francisco plus 2.5 at Seattle. I hate to go against Seattle in thetheir house, but San Francisco proved a lot last week. Seattle, even though they won against an improving Carolina team, 12-7 win, that shows they're not really playing their best, which is probably good for them. You don't want to peak too early.
Yeah.
But in terms of this matchup, San Francisco looked like they were hitting on all cylinders. San Francisco's got a better defense than Carolina, even though Carolina's got a very good defense this year. So I'll take the points. I'll take Kaepernick. Going to be another good game, but the value here is pretty good for San Francisco. Kevin, I know you have one in the college ranks. What is it?
Yeah, I kind of strayed away from the NFL game. Even though last week I had the Chiefs. Chiefs won. I had the Colts minus 10.5. Colts couldn't cover that. They only won by 4. And then of course I had the what was I thinking fit? Probably like a lot of you guys, because the spread on that Michigan Notre Dame game did go down. So it was obvious that people were picking the under on that game, and then Michigan Notre Dame both threw up big points. But this weekend, I'm going to go big red. I like Nebraska in Lincoln against UCLA, and I think Taylor Martinez is going to do great. He's going to be up. He's going to be hyped for this game. All of Nebraska, that stadium's going to be packed in Lincoln. Bo Pelini is ready to roll. I think UCLA is a little bit overrated, not quite deserving of their rank, 16th ranked. So 23-16 Nebraska, UCLA. I like Nebraska. Go Cornhuskers.
And lastly, moving on to our last segment, some of you guys had reached out to us and asked if we could do a little bit of fantasy football each week. maybe provide some lower ranked players or whatever that have good matchups in case you're in a bind. This week, I like, we have a quarterback, 2 tight ends, and then Kevin has a wide receiver for us. Quarterback this week, if you don't like the matchups for your guys or whatever it may be, a deeper league, I do like Matt Schaub at home against the Tennessee Titans. Schaub has caught some flack of kind of being, a lower level fantasy quarterback because of how much the Texans run the ball. But Arian Foster's not 100% yet, and Schaub looked fantastic leading the Texans back against the Chargers. So coming home, Andre Johnson looked good. Those tight ends look good. The rookie Hopkins looked good. Schaub should throw for 2 scores, get you about 16 to 20 points, which is enough to win if you're in the bind. And then 2 tight ends. First off, being Brent Selleck from the Philadelphia Eagles. He looked great on Monday night.
Very good.
Nobody knows really what to expect or how to defend that Phillies offense or Eagles offense. And when you look at Vic and McCoy and Jackson, I mean, there's just not enough people to cover Selleck. He'll probably get a lot of one-on-ones. Mm-hmm. San Diego coming off a short week. Going to the East Coast, they just gave up 3 touchdowns to tight ends on Monday night. So I like Selleck to probably get a score here, maybe 70 to 80 yards. Should be good enough, especially in a tight end shallow year, which this is. Second would be Dallas Clark. He had 7 receptions, 87 yards. He dropped a couple balls, which is uncharacteristic of him. And coming back home, Flacco, it has limited options. I know he has Torrey Smith, but Jacoby Jones is banged up. And I expect Flacco to look for Clark a little bit more. He had 10 targets last week, which is great. I mean, you need targets to just rack up points. So I like Dallas Clark if you're in a bind. And Kevin, I know you have a receiver who kind of underperformed last week. Was a big preseason sleeper. Who is it for us?
I'm going to go ahead and take a sip of water for you because you just rambled off with a ridiculously long segment. And I don't know how you went through that fast. But T.Y. Hilton, the Indianapolis Colts, I think, is a guy that you should pick up. I mean, the Colts' offensive line didn't look that great this past weekend. And so I think they're going to kind of depend more on the air, especially with the Miami Dolphin defense that had 6 sacks last weekend. And so look for a lot more receptions, a lot more passing game from Andrew Luck.
Shorter passing game.
Shorter passing game. I'm sorry. So. I mean, I think that's a good pick. Hilton's going to be a guy that's going to get some looks this weekend against Miami. Miami's going to, the running game for Indianapolis wasn't too encouraging, I thought. So Ballard, the running back, he was okay. He was okay, but
enough to take the pressure off.
Exactly.
Eventually, they're going to depend on luck.
Exactly.
And they're not going to want him to get hit. So look for short drops, get the ball out quick to your playmakers, which would be Hilton. I think that's a pretty good call. So
yeah.
So if you guys have any other questions as far as fantasy football, who to start, whatever, we'll be happy to answer them. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We look forward to watching these games this weekend. One thing we didn't touch on was Bama, Texas A&M on Saturday in the afternoon. Definitely check that game out. I think Bama personally is going to get some revenge. Probably going to be a shootout because if Texas A&M had any sort of defense, I'd say maybe they can steal a win there. But I just think, Saban's bound to figure out that offense and at least contain them enough. And then
the Alabama defense is better than the Texas offense, and I think that Alabama's going to be fine.
Yeah,
Alabama. What is the spread on that game?
7.
7 points. It's going to be a good one.
Yeah.
So, that's all we got here. New change of scenery. We got the couch, kind of relaxing a little bit inside.
A little hot as hell outside.
A little toasty outside. But guys, appreciate you guys watching, and thanks for tuning in.
Thank you.